Alright guys, are you ready for sillage monsters or sillage monsters? What are sillage or sillage monsters? Do you know the word or term sillage? Basically, it's the fragrance that you're wearing that will leave a trail behind. And you're walking down this hall and you're leaving this fragrance behind, and somebody far away walks where you have walked and they'll smell you and they'll see you way down there and they'll follow you and ask you, chase you down the hall and say, which fragrance are you wearing? What perfume are you wearing? Because they like the way it smells. So this is what we're talking about today. These are the fragrances I'm going to highlight today. Fragrances that I consider sillage monsters. And I've got 20 of them here for you today. It's an unranked list. If you're curious to find out about them, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian. Yes, today we're talking about sillage monsters or sillage monsters. Do you enjoy these kind of fragrances? Do you like your fragrances to have a lot of sillage, massive projection, major longevity? Typically, fragrances with longevity will have, well no I shouldn't say, typically fragrances that project will have great sillage, and typically they will have longevity as well. And sometimes it's turned around. Sometimes long-lasting fragrances will be more subdued. They won't have the projection and sillage. And then also sometimes you might have a lot of sillage and projection, but it doesn't last a long time. These fragrances, all three covered for you. Long-lasting, major sillage, massive projection. Great fragrances. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the first fragrance. As I mentioned, it's an unranked list. This is from the house of GUERLAIN. This is BOIS Mystérieux, and a wonderful fragrance. Really a massive sillage here. Definitely a room filler. Kind of animalic also, very woody, dry, earthy, green, leathery, resinous, and of course there's this really interesting cumin note in here. So you got to be into kind of like that sweatiness that you would get when you wear cumin. But what a fantastic fragrance this is. I have a full review on the channel. Go check it out. BOIS Mystérieux is the first fragrance we're starting off with. Then heading over to the house of Tom Ford. And even though we've complained a lot about Tom Ford fragrances, I still find Tobacco Vanille to be really, really great. I know my bottle is probably all the way back from 2000. So maybe they've changed now, but what I get here is really, really great sillage. It does have a great cloud. It does have a great trail, and people do ask me what I'm wearing, and I like that about it. And sometimes though, if your body is not warm, you might not get the projection and sillage, so you got to know that about the fragrances as well. But typically with Tobacco Vanille, I get really, really great projection and sillage, and I like the smell. It reminds me of the holidays. It's tobacco with vanilla. There's some dried fruits and spices, a little chocolate and tonka. What a delicious fragrance it is. Moving on to the house to MANCERA with another tobacco fragrance. It's red tobacco. Really, really big, really, really bad. Really, really intense. Maybe could be choking. Sometimes people would be overwhelmed with this fragrance. But it's dirty, ashy tobacco, and then there's some sweet notes and spices and oud and fruits. The combination is very intoxicating and definitely is a sillage monster. Really massive cloud, really, really great projection, and very, very long lasting. So red tobacco, MANCERA. You've got to be into these kind of fragrances, and sometimes, you know, fragrances that are really, really big in your face, bad boys, beast mode kind of fragrances can be a little challenging to wear if you're not used to those kind of fragrances. Moving on to the house of ETAT LIBRE Orange. This is RIEN Intense Incense. This to me is like an old school fragrance. To me, it's kind of in the ballpark of something like Kouros. If you're not into Kouros, you're probably not going to like this one, because in the end, Kouros is leather with aldehydes. Here it's leather and aldehydes. This one also has incense, Oakmoss, styrax, patchouli. Definitely leans on the masculine side, for sure it does. But I know women that love this. They wear it, they enjoy it. It's bad boy. It's very, very long lasting. Definitely lots of sillage. Definitely, it's a sillage monster I would consider. And projection is great here as well. So this is RIEN Intense Incense from the house of ETAT LIBRE Orange. For me, that's probably longest lasting fragrance from that house. There's an original fragrance called RIEN, and that one is RIEN Intense Incense. And it's an amazing fragrance. But you gotta be into old school fragrances, because it's totally something that kind of jumped out of the 80s, I think, even though it came out in the early 2010s or maybe latter part of 2000s. So next up, going to the house of ELECTIMUSS London. This is OCTAVIAN, this one right here. This one is a sillage monster for sure, and it's oud with lots of rose. So there's rose, there's attar of roses with the oud. So it's that combination of oud and spicy rose touches, but this one also has has saffron, pink pepper, and then of course other woods and aromatics and spices, and of course ambery touches when it's drying down. If you like the idea of, you know, oud rose together, very kind of beast mode, very long lasting, intense, with massive projection and sillage and things like that, definitely check out some of the fragrances from the House of ELECTIMUSS London. And this one is created by Christian Provenzano, and I feel like he makes really intense fragrances. He has another fragrance here for another house that I'm going to talk to you about, but the first one we're talking about is OCTAVIAN from the House of ELECTIMUSS London. Let me know if you're a fan of that house and what are your favorite fragrances. But moving on to one of my favorite fragrances that I recently featured in one of my Scent Club kits, it's PSYCHEDELIQUE from the House of JOVOY. Great room filler, really, you know, massive projection, sillage monster is what I should say for this one for sure. But you got to be into patchouli and ambery touches with vanilla, and I think this combination creates that kind of chocolate cakey effect. But there's also lots of labdanum, musk, geranium, rose, and, you know, other notes in here as well, and it creates an aromatic, ambery, smoky, patchouli, earthy, woody, chocolate cakey amber experience. So this is PSYCHEDELIQUE from JOVOY. It's a great sillage monster for sure. Moving on to the House of MFK, Maison Francis Crick, and its BACCARAT Rouge 540 extrait. Yeah, this is probably one of the most popular fragrances when it comes to sillage monsters. A lot of people, I think the reason this is really popular because of the trail it leaves, and that's basically what we're talking about today. This is a sillage monster for sure, and a lot of people smell it on other people and they go want to buy it, and that's kind of how this became popular. At one time I was not a fan of this one, but I'm, you know, totally embraced it and really love it. It's a combination of ambroxan and ambergris together with almonds, jasmine, and musk. There's a bit of a leathery touch in there and a little aquatic thing. It's very musky and ambery, BACCARAT Rouge 540 extrait. If you don't know that one, yeah, definitely check it out. It's a very popular. You must be new to the fragrance community if you haven't heard of that fragrance. But moving on to the House of Narcotica, this is Dulce Diablo, I should say. And this one to me has such a big cloud. It's big. It's really big in your face. And don't spray it close to your mouth because it totally takes over and it's really dominating. It's a big cloud, but it's cocoa here. There's cacao or cocoa. There's lots of cognac. It's really boozy. There's woody touches like sandalwood. There's dried fruitiness like apricots. There's dried apricots. There's fresh apricots. There's vanilla and more boozy touches. In the end, it's kind of like a really intense, maybe a bit smoky as well, if I remember correctly. Very gourmandish, boozy gourmand. So Dulce Diablo, big massive sillage with that one. It's definitely a sillage monster for sure. Moving on to the House of Xerjoff, we've got Accento Overdose, this one right here. So with this one, it's definitely a different kind of, you know, sillage monster in that it's got a major projection for sure, and it's also got intense longevity, and then also that sillage is really not necessarily like every other fragrance. This to me, more on the fresh side because of the types of notes in here. There's fruity notes, there's jasmine, there's green touches, green floral notes, a bit woody, ambery, pine kind of thing in there as well. So it's not your typical like rose oud or like intense spicy amber or tobacco. It's more fresh notes, but it has really great longevity and has really great trail. It's got major sillage with this one, and of course projection is great too. So Accento Overdose from the House of Xerjoff, wonderful fragrance. And then moving on to the House of Marc-Antoine Barrois, it's B683 Extrait, a very long lasting fragrance. The Extrait version of B683, I'm looking forward to checking out the Extrait version of Ganymede next. But this one to me is oud with safraline, violet leaf absolute, and then there's ambery woody touches in there as well. And also to me it does remind me of Ganymede, and I think B683 reminded me of Ganymede, and I feel like Ganymede is basically the you know, graduation of B683. So after B683, Ganymede came. So I'm looking to see what they do with Ganymede Extrait, because this to me does remind me of Ganymede to begin with. So we'll see what direction it goes. But this is uber beast mode, major sillage at this one, massive projection, and very long lasting. So B683 Extrait from the House of Marc-Antoine Barrois is super amazing. Very long lasting, beast mode I should say. Moving on to the House of Boadicea de Victorious. This is harmonious. I can't get enough of this fragrance, guys. This to me is like Dior Homme Parfum become amplified and intensified. A bit different as well, not necessarily identical, but you'll totally notice the similarities. And this is definitely big cloud, massive, massive trail, very, very long lasting with ambrette, orris, musk, vanilla, roses, cognac. So basically think of Dior Homme Parfum, much more intense, beast mode, and then maybe a little bit into the makeup-y direction more than what Dior Homme Parfum is. So Harmonious from the house of Boadicea the Victorious is fantastic. Next, one of the longest lasting fragrances I've ever put my nose on. In fact, be careful. I just picked it up. I don't even have the cap open. I can smell it. Don't get this stuff on your clothes if you plan on not washing it, because it's going to be on there for days. I've dry cleaned pants after I've actually accidentally got the stuff on my pants. Somebody had mentioned recently, why do you spray your pants? I'm like, I don't spray my pants. Why would I spray my pants? This stuff goes all over when you spray it. It's followed by kerosene. Man, this is the longest lasting fragrance. I can't believe how long it's nuclear. It's literally nuclear. So be careful. I've sprayed it in the studio, come back the next day, it still smells like it in there. It's so super strong. But you got to be into the idea of coffeed maple syrup. Think of breakfast. Very rich, very, very non-diety breakfast, like full fat, full everything. So it's coffee, cocoa, caramel, maple syrup, vanilla, amber. Full-on coffee gourmand. Very maple syrupy, followed by kerosene. And then this one I've actually worn on planes and, you know, at the airport, major compliments. And it's also very, very major projection, a massive trail with this one. Really, really intense and very long-lasting. Patchouli Magnetic from the house of Maison Crivelli. I know that not a lot of you are fans of this one. For some reason, I've totally embraced this one and really enjoyed it, not only because I love patchouli, but I really love the strength of this one. In comparison to the other two fragrances in this collection, there's the amber and then there's the hibiscus. Patchouli Magnetic is for me amazing. It's a creamy, tropical white floral patchouli. So it's Patchouli Magnetic from Maison Crivelli. And then Ombre Mythique, this one. Man, this is so choking. Be careful when you spray this one. This is not Ombre Perso, which I recently featured in Scent Club Kit number 4. This is Ombre Mythique. It's even stronger. It's a little more acquired taste, but heavy on the labdanum, and it's also very, very powdery. It's a bit animalic, so it's labdanum, amber, myrrh, vanilla, tonka, and sandalwood. It is really, really intense, guys. If you don't know this one, check it out. Ombre Mythique from the house of Maître Parfumé Gantier. Love this house. Really, really into their fragrances, and I like classic fragrances to begin with. And that house was started in the late 80s, I believe, by the man who started L'Artisan Parfumeur. I think he sold that brand and then launched Maître Parfumé Gantier. So up next, another Sillage monster. This is Interlude 53 from the house of Amouage. Yeah, this is so intense. Really, really massive cloud here. Major projection and major longevity with this one. It is also very expensive. You can always go with the original, which I find to be a bit subdued compared to this one, and this is the ultimate in luxury. If you're a fan of Interlude, man, you gotta get this one for sure, Interlude 53. But it's that combination of incense, of Papanax, amber, oregano, that's that highlight note, leather and nude in there. It's smoky, oody, ambery, dry, so Interlude 53. And then I've always got to mention this one. This has definitely got a major cloud. In fact, a lot of people love this one because of its sillage. This is Portrait of a Lady from the house of Frederic Malle. And this one to me is rose with patchouli, incense, sandalwood, musk, benzoin, cloves, and raspberry. So it's that combination of the patchouli with the rose together. And imagine that, really beautiful. It's a rose chypre combo, but it's got smoky touches, ambery touches, and fruity touches in there as well. Of course, the spices. This is Portrait of a Lady from the house of Frederic Malle. And then going to Thomas DeMonico's Raw Gold. This is definitely another fragrance that is that has great sillage. I've gotten major compliments with this one. But for me, when I get compliments, I have to be near a lot of people. They have to smell what I'm wearing. It's not like when you're walking by sometimes. Sometimes they do chase you down, but this one, people do like it off of me because it smells really great off of me, and I like the way it smells. But for me, this is very full of honeyed patchouli, a bit barnyard with leathery touches, boozy touches, and some earthy touches in there as well. Really amazing fragrance, and recently featured that one in Scent Club Kit number 4. Hope you guys are enjoying Scent Club Kit number 4. And then moving on to the house of Unique Luxury fragrances. This is Crush on Me. And this one to me is a different take on patchouli with a caramelly edge to it. So kind of gourmand, but not necessarily going into chocolate cake, but more like a sweet treat, and then earthy patchouli. And the patchouli in this one is a bit on the green side rather than that kind of darker patchouli. So it's a bit brighter, but really, really intense here. Very long lasting, and also super, you know, massive sillage with this one. But for me, the notes are patchouli, caramel, ginger, lime, and amber. Smells great. It's Crush on Me from the house of Unique Luxury. And then finally, the second fragrance created by Christian Provenzano is Parisian from Fragrance du Bois. This is definitely a room filler, definitely great sillage with this one. When I spray it, I overspray anyway, and I feel like a lot of people, you know, are notified with that, the strength of this fragrance. And I like it because it's the oud and incense combo with lots of rose and cardamom. There's Oakmoss and Labdanum. Definitely, I've received compliments with this, not as much as I would like, but I don't wear a lot of fragrances over and over again, but this one smells fantastic on me. It's a great combination of oud and rose with spices, earthy touches, amber and everything, and definitely if you wear this stuff, you'll be recognized. This is Parisian Oud. I don't know if it's Parisian Oud or Parisian. It says Parisian here. In like publications it says Parisian Oud, so I'm just going to say Parisian. And then finally, my favorite fragrance from Tiziano Terenzi Ursa is another fragrance that has massive trail, major projection, major longevity. It's a bit animalic, but it's kind of like straight to heaven, intensified. If you like that fragrance and you want a little animalic leather, definitely Ursa is your best friend, I would say. Leather, dried fruits, patchouli, there's rum, elemi, tobacco, and a bit of vanilla in there. The dry down is super amazing. I absolutely love the dry down on that one. It smells super fantastic on me, and I think it's a great sillage monster. Anyway, that's the last fragrance for you guys today. Hope you enjoyed these sillage monsters or sillage monsters. Let me know your sillage monsters or sillage monsters. Let me know your longest lasting fragrances. What are they? Put some comments down so I can find out. And also, if you wear these ones, let me know as well. Anyway, thanks so much for watching today's video, guys. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.